Cinema St. Louis's The Lens is now the takeup.com, a place to gather after the film is over. I'm your host, Joshua Ray, and fear not, all your favorite episodes of The Lens featuring all your favorite guests are still here in your feed, just a little refocused. Stay subscribed to us here for future episodes, and you can follow along for new ones and more at the Takeup STL. Thank you for joining us on The Lens, a Cinema St. Louis podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Ray, programmer and critic. I'm joined by my co-host, Kayla McCullough, critic, programmer, social media manager. Hey, Kayla.
Hi.
And Andrew Wyatt, critic, programmer, and managing editor of Cinema St. Louis's film site, The Lens. Hey, Andrew.
Hello.
While you can find all of our words at The Lens on cinemastlouis.org, here we focus on one underloved or underseen film every other week. First up, we're going to talk about what's now showing, and then we'll focus on Brief Encounter, Kayla's pick for our new miniseries, Cannes Winners. And then in the rules of the game, we're going to talk about the 2022 Cannes Film Festival. Finally, we'll have one more thing. Andrew, let's start this, what should be a fun new miniseries with a film that can be described as very much not fun, but I think one of the most vital films of the year. You reviewed it. It's called Happening.
Yeah, Happening is a new drama, French drama from a filmmaker named Audrey Diwan. I believe this is her sophomore feature. And it's based on an autobiographical novel by the famous French author Annie Ernaux. So it is a true story about her own experiences in early 1960s France. And the film concerns a young woman named Anne who is studying literature at university and finds that she has become pregnant. And this is a time and place when abortion is outlawed, completely illegal in France. And actually anti-abortion laws are enforced in a pretty draconian fashion. So their abortion stories have sort of become like their own mini subgenre for dramas. And there have been some particularly great ones. I think this is like a really exceptional version of that kind of story. I think I'd put it up there like top 3 with 4 months, 3 weeks, 2 days, and Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. It's very straightforward. Like there's no hook or anything to the narrative. It's just, here's a young woman who needs an abortion. She absolutely must have an abortion in her mind, and it's illegal. How does she go about doing that? It plays a bit like a slow motion thriller in that respect, as she tries to sort of safely feel out maybe some underground methods for obtaining this. It's just a very smartly adapted story, spectacularly acted by the lead actress, with a great attention to detail in like the things that are going on with character blocking and the way that the filmmaker uses shallow focus to follow conversations.
I think one of the really key things that sets this aside from maybe even some of the truly great films you were talking about is everything and everyone that surrounds her is attempting to prevent her from doing this thing that she's already made a decision about. There's no one or no factor that's going to change this woman's mind. It is not a film about, choice, right? It is about being able to follow through with that choice. And at every way, what is so discouraging about her journey, especially thinking about what all of our women are going through right now and all the telltale signs that will happen to other people. Let's not go in that direction. But the way everyone around her, no one is there for her. It is such a glimmer. It is like the smallest window that she finds open that she's able to go through. And I'm kind of being cagey in some of the things I'm saying because I hate saying that there are like spoilers in this, but the taking the journey with her, and you are locked with her, like you mentioned, like it's in the Academy ratio. So like much of the film is either on her face from her point of view or like right beside her. in true, like, sort of, not to compare this, who's an emergent talent, to the Dardenne brothers, I thought of quite a bit.
Yeah.
Something like Rosetta that follows a young woman through a perilous journey. And just the complete lack of support and everything that goes against her in doing this, which is, you're in this draconian society where people can't do this. They won't even speak about it.
Yeah, there's a moment in the film where she finally breaks down and sort of confides in her to her closest friends about what's going on, and her one male friend uses this as an opportunity to sexually exploit her, and her two closest female friends basically just sort of say, it's none of our business, we can't talk about this.
Exactly. And she really has no venue for it. And there's an interesting, I think, with a purpose, more than it being interesting, structural device of following her through the weeks since inception.
Yeah.
And it works as a sort of ticking clock device.
Unlike 4 months and Never Rarely, like, the point here is not about female friendship and solidarity. The point is the isolation she feels. And as you kind of intimated, there's some places at the end where some support crops up in unpredictable places in the tiniest ways that give her an avenue forward. But yeah, great film. Currently playing at the landmark Plaza Frontenac Cinema. I do recommend it.
And I will say that it's actually playing quite a few places, surprisingly.
Oh.
It was showing, I went to the movies this weekend, and it was showing at one of the Marcus theaters too.
Okay.
So get the two happening as soon as possible. All right, let's take a little bit of a shift and talk about Miss Sheryl Crow. Kayla, you reviewed a new documentary from Showtime about Sheryl Crow. What's that about?
Yeah, so it tracks Sheryl Crow's career from her start in Missouri to her most recent tour, interviewing friends and colleagues, and mainly Crow herself, about what has happened in her career. And it's pretty normal on, like, the level of, like, for what it is, but I think her life is so interesting that's why I really that's what made me like it more than I think like it would have if it were anybody else. So
what did she do in Missouri? I don't.
So she's from a rural town in Missouri, next to, like, pretty far south. And then she went to the college at Mizzou, and then she taught at an elementary school in St. Louis, like in the suburbs of St. Louis. So
Is this something people know? Like, am I really stupid for not knowing this?
I mean,
remember-
I've always known, but
I remember hearing about the fact that she was a St. Louis school teacher, like, way back in the 90s. Yeah.
So she grew up not an hour away from where I grew up, and I had no idea.
wow.
Okay. Wow. All right. Well, I learn something new every day. But what else?
One of the things I loved about your review, Kayla, is how you connected to the things that happened to Crow and things that she experienced to what's going on with younger female singer-songwriter artists.
Yeah, she really talks about what happened to her, and just how quickly it all came to fruition, and how you just have to process it as you're still trying to, keep up with what's happening.
You did a great job, I think, of connecting the through line to a lot of you've written about a lot of the other female artists, I think, both for films and other topics, and you did a good job of connecting them, I think, because I guess I never really, being a Gen Xer who sort of grew up with Crow and loved her from the beginning, I never really sort of could put the mental through line to her and, for example, Taylor Swift or Kesha or Megan Thee Stallion. So that was very helpful, I think.
Very good. Well, happening. Andrew's review is up at cinemastlouis.org, as well as, what is the title of the Sheryl Crow doc? I just have Sheryl Crow doc.
It's her name. It's just her name.
Oh, so
Sheryl.
That's why I wrote Sheryl.
Yeah.
Great. Cool. I have a review coming up on KMOV. I've been doing a few appearances on their Friday News at 4 of the new Downton Abbey film. That is called Downton Abbey, A New Era. I really wish the new era had no Downton Abbey in it. I don't like these things. I did write a review of the first Downton Abbey film, and I think I gave it a D. I remember comparing it to the Marvel Cinematic Universe in that it is just kind of a content mill, but for a very different audience. And now, having seen and really liked Doctor Strange, I feel bad for ever having said that. Look.
Oh, wow.
This
that is some doubt. When you're saying you're favorably comparing Marvel like above Downton Abbey, that is some Downton slander, isn't it?
It is guys, please don't go see this so that I don't have to see another one. But I will say, it is better than the first one. I'm not going to ever put it on a list of sequels better than the first one, because it is not a movie. I'm sorry. It is a 2-hour, just like really ring the pleasure bell for Downton Abbey fans. To set it up, there's 2 parallel stories happening. In the first, the Dowager Countess, played beautifully by Maggie Smith, finds out that she is inheriting a villa in the south of France from a former lover.
Oh, these are the problems you want to have.
It's a very nice problem to have, except that the family of the former lover are very upset about it. So, guess what? It is the second movie in a TV series to film. They go on vacation in tradition of Sex and the City 2. And in tradition of a very Brady sequel, Downton Abbey goes on a trip. And it is very that.
Wait a minute. So isn't the whole appeal, I am not a Downton Abbey person here, but isn't the whole appeal of Downton Abbey that they're at Downton Abbey and you're soaking up the atmosphere of the locale?
So, in the B plot, have you guys ever seen the movie, what's it called? Singing in the Rain?
Yeah.
I think so.
So, in the B plot, some filmmaker comes, and he's played by Hugh Dancy, so at least there's something to look at. Yeah. He comes and he wants to make a film at Downton Abbey. And, they've seen better days financially. So Mary heads this B plot where they come in, but the female star, is awful. She's rude to the downstairs people, and the male star was kind of flirty with the gay butler. What's up there? But then it's right at the advent of sound. So in the middle of making the film, they've got to switch and make it a sound film. It is literally Singing in the Rain, zero joy. Now, having said that, there are stretches in the middle of this film that are a lot more enjoyable than the first film, which I thought was just like a dirge and just really terrible. This one, while it has the same problems of you seeing Julian Fellowes' wheels really spinning to get each set of characters in their respective plots, while they're in it, sometimes it's kind of fun. It still has the same problems that I have with the television show as it went on in the first film in its ahistorical values. There's a gay character who's treated very kindly when a time when it was illegal to be a homosexual, and the relationship between the downstairs people and the upstairs. Again, like I said in my review of the first Downton Abbey, just rent Gosford Park and you're good. Yeah. All right. Well, from Downton Abbey, I think we should stay in the UK and take a trip to France too, and go into the first film in our Cannes Winners series. That's Kayla's pick of Brief Encounter.
Are you going to pictures this afternoon?
Yes.
How extraordinary, so am I.
I thought you had to be all day at the hospital.
Well, between ourselves, I killed 2 patients by accident this morning, and the matron is very displeased with me. I simply daren't go back.
What's she like, your wife?
Madeline? Small, dark, rather delicate.
How funny, I just thought she would have been fair.
And your husband, what's he like?
Medium height, brown hair, kindly, unemotional, and not delicate at all.
All right, we're into a new mini-series timed with the start of the 2022 Cannes Film Festival. We are going through the decades and picking out Cannes winners. Now, we can't call them Palme d'Or winners because it wasn't always the Palme d'Or. And in the first year where there were winners awarded in that year, it's very complicated. We'll get into it. There were 16 films awarded the Grand Prix, which is not the same award that exists now, which is essentially a second place award. So the film, Kayla chose Brief Encounter. I want to say, in defense of it being underloved or underseen, it is a film from 1946. I think a lot of our listeners probably have not. I'm going to say that there are quite a few that have. I think it's a film that is probably in a higher regard in the UK than it is here in the States. We can talk about that later. But I want to set up the Cannes Film Festival at the time before we get into talking Brief Encounter proper. And this is a very short, very reductive history, okay? So the film we've picked is from 1946. This is the first proper Cannes Film Festival. They attempted to mount one in 1939 as an answer to the Venice Film Festival, which had been taken over by fascists. They gave an award to Leni Riefenstahl that year. So some people wanted to split off, understandably, and start it's now officially called the Cannes Film Festival. Then, and up until 2003, it was called the International Film Festival. So it was 16 countries came together, and there were quite a few Hollywood things that were going to be shown, a lot of French fare. The list is pretty extensive of what they were going to show, but they only showed one film, and that's The Hunchback of Notre Dame, because the raid started on Poland the next day. And in 3 days, all hell broke loose, and the war started in earnest. So there was no Cannes Film Festival in France during the war, but in 1946, they reconvene and have all the parties come together, and they end up awarding one film from each country that brought films, the Grand Prix, which is the precursor to the Palme d'Or, which you would know as the top prize now. Palme d'Or didn't actually start until 1955. The film Marty won. And then so with this series, we've divided it up into 20-year chunks. Kayla got to pick a 40s and 50s. I'm going to do 60s and 70s. Andrew's got 80s and 90s. And then we have our special guest, the director of the Webster University Film Series, Pete Tinnerman, is going to bring us up to speed, up to date, I should say. And he's someone who's actually been to the Cannes Film Festival. So we're going to
He's got a leg up on us.
We're going to dig into his brain so we can get into more Cannes stuff and talk about the lineup later. But first, Kayla, why Brief Encounter?
I mean, like, why not Brief Encounter?
Right. Why not? It's kind of perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's the ultimate romantic drama.
Can you set up Brief Encounter?
Sure, yeah. So pretty much, after a chance meeting in a train station, a married woman named Laura and a married man named Alec slowly fall into an affair that's just not happening, that won't happen.
So what do you think it is about Brief Encounter that puts it in the pantheon of romantic films? There's a special feature on the Criterion disc, which I think is still available on Criterion Channel if you stream it that way. And the scholar who's speaking is talking about a poll done in The Guardian. and the most romantic films, and this is in the aughts at some time, most romantic films of all time. Number 3 is Gone with the Wind. Number 2's Casablanca. Number 1 is Brief Encounter. Now, as I kind of alluded to before, I think in the States, Brief Encounter might be in the 50s or something somewhere, which probably owes to its lineage. But for me, I agree with you. There's something it's the yearning in it. It's the unfulfillment in it that makes it just really heart racing the entire time.
Yeah, I have like that it's an emotional and heart-wrenching look at a love affair. And I feel like Lee really leans into like everything in him, and he brings his epic proportion down to like a microscopic level.
Yeah, and that's to the heart and between these two.
I love that. I love that comparison, Caleb, because now that you say that, it didn't just sort of ping for me mentally, because I thought, well, this feels like a very small scale film, but the device, we can talk about like the structure, the amazing structure in this film, and the device where most of the film is told sort of in Laura's mind to her husband, like she's sort of mentally narrating it as if it was a confession to her husband while he's sort of sitting there. So most of the movie, I guess, is technically in flashback, but there's a sense in which Laura sort of mind palacing the entire plot of the film feels like that lean style epic is opening up from her mind. Like, if that makes sense. Like you just saying that just now made that click for me, that it is an epic. It's an epic of the mind and the heart that's happening for Laura. And we can talk about like how interesting it is that the whole movie is really from her perspective.
Yeah, let's do that. So you mentioned the structural device. The structural device is that it begins at the end, right? This is something that inspired, I will always take the opportunity to talk about Carol. Todd Haynes and Phyllis Nye, the screenwriter of Carol, to structure the film in the exact same way in which you see two lovers who you don't know at the time are lovers having a conversation in a public place. Someone interrupts them, and you can kind of see some things happening, and then you end up following one of the lovers because they're splitting, and then you go inside the mind of someone with a broken heart. And in this one, they're at a train station. Trains are essential to the way this film works visually, and it's a nice metaphor, but they're in a train station, and Laura, who is played by Celia Johnson, and Alec, played by Trevor Howard, are having a conversation, which is actually interrupted by the sole comedic presences in the film, which are the woman who runs this little cafe in the train station, and at Porter, I guess he is. It's Cecil Holloway from
a platform engineer.
Yeah. Who are very funny, but in the middle of this, there's this very epic love story happening, and I love that idea that you could be in a room and there I almost said the Lady Gaga thing. There are 99 people in a room, and two of them are having this incredibly upsetting and moving time that is going to determine the rest of their lives or not. And ultimately it is not. But yeah, so Laura goes back and is just besotted. Is that the word? And comes back home and just looks at her husband, and it just sort of starts this journey of going through it. Actually, what starts it is her conversation with the friend that interrupts them, who ends up joining her on the train. And I have to talk about the shot of Laura looking into the train window, seeing everything going by, and her reflection in the window staying present. But what changes in the background isn't the scenery going by, but her projections of what life could be with Alec. They're dancing in a ballroom, they're skiing in the Alps or whatever it might be. And it's such a kind of beautiful visual
And
metaphor.
And I think it speaks to the tone, the sort of doomed romance is the wrong word, because doomed romance makes me think of like Romeo and Juliet. This is like a softer version of that. This is like romance that just never was going to happen.
Right.
The way the characters, but it says something to the film's like tone and just approach to romance, that Laura is having these blue sky fantasies, these impossibly like glamorous fantasies of the future that she might have with Alec. And she is almost, for the moment they escape her lips, she is already tearing them down in her mind as like irrational, schoolgirlish, stupid fantasies. Like, so there's a high level of like adults self-awareness about how nuts this all is and how delusional she's being, which is like, again, I think it goes to like the sort of dark tone, very sad tone of the whole movie.
And it's part of the tension of the entire film is the push and pull of, let me just go ahead and have this romance, have this time with this person because I deserve it. And on the other side is, I am committed, and everything tells me that I absolutely should not do this. I feel that I am morally going against every grain of my body, but what's doing it is the thing that makes me the happiest. Oh my God.
I wrote in my notes, there's something very, very British specifically about that. It feels like to me, about the idea that Alec, and as strong as their feelings for each other become, Alec and Laura never really seriously contemplate leaving their spouses. Like it doesn't even register as a possibility for them, because they're not, in their minds, and I think maybe even in a neutral sense, they're not bad people. Like they still think of their spouses as people who deserve happiness too and don't deserve to be hurt. So their essential decency as people won't let them hurt others by having this affair. But it doesn't mean that the process isn't agonizing to watch them go through that, like to understand that and to make peace with it is hurtful to watch in a good way. It hurts so. This movie hurts so good.
It hurts so good. So supposedly David Lean had his own Laura. After he passed, his family found some notes to someone named Joe, and this biographer, there's a written about it in the Criterion booklet, has to research and figure out who the heck Joe is. And it turns out Joe is a woman who in the 30s, David Lean had this great romance with, and it was never came to fruition. She ended up marrying another man and having kids with the guy. So David Lean literally went through this and saw that train, that experience of waving goodbye to someone on a train as it, gains speed and they go away to never see them again, had that experience. I think, something a lot of people have, whether it's, a train, a car, plane, whatever it is. So it is in every frame, there's an ache to it. I think a lot of that is helped by a new cinematographer that he brought on. It's the same guy who did The Third Man. So he brings to it a lot of, I'm not going to say David Lean is ever not a visually accomplished director, but if you were to look at the 3 films that he made before this, they're much simpler films visually, to whereas this one is a kind of romantic noir. It's all about smoke and shadows, and even the framing device is sort of a noir device. It's the same sort of bookends, it's like double indemnity.
We could talk about there's a particular process, 2-stage process dissolve in this movie that literally took my breath away when I saw it. It made me sit upright and go, whoa, what did I just see? Where Laura is in the train station, or she's somehow sitting in her living room on the couch, but then she's also present in the train station at the same time in this sort of beautiful 2-step I don't know how they accomplished it, with at the time, but that's the kind of thing that made me. I've never seen this before. I'd seen a few Lean's more famous stuff, but that's the kind of thing that made me sit up the way other people set up for, the match blowing out in Lawrence's hand.
Right.
Like I went, whoa, what did I just see happen in the Academy ratio?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of what people praise the editing in River Kwai and Lawrence of Arabia. There's a lot of it here. There's a lot of inventiveness. There's some match cuts on action, but match cuts on like even ideas at some points that I was sort of taken aback by. I hadn't seen this before, but there was something going around Twitter this weekend about someone complaining about a similar shot in the new Doctor Strange film where Benedict Wong is in the foreground and what the background changes behind him and then he's in a different set. That's the shot that you're talking about, Andrew. And the Marvel kids being like, this is some 2000 shit. No, this is David Lean 1946 shit, and it's great, and we need more of it.
There's less of an excuse now because it's a heck of a lot easier to pull off.
Exactly.
Yeah, like again, this is my first time with this, and I think it's one of those cases where I see something that I know is beloved and is quote unquote classic and sort of universally praised. So my radar instantly, like my cynic in me instantly goes down a peg, like where I'm like, is this really going to be as great as everybody says it is? And then you see it and it's like, oh, nope, reputation entirely deserved. This movie is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
There's no room for cynicism here.
Kayla, what's your history with Brief Encounter?
I watched it maybe I think it was 2019, and I was just like, this is the most amazing work I've ever witnessed. And then I've watched it a few times since then, and then I watch it maybe once a year. So
oof. How do you do that? That's like the emotional equivalent of revisiting Requiem for a Dream once a year or something.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really comforting to me in a way. I don't know why, but it is. So yeah, I try to watch it as much as I can without, watching it too much to the point. I don't know if that's possible, but to the point where I'm try to keep myself refrain from watching it all the time.
You want it to have an emotional punch every time you watch it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just that right amount.
Mm-hmm.
No, I get the impetus to want to go back to it, and I find it kind of comforting too. I don't know.
Also, when you're upset, you just want something that will hurt you, but also will kind of help you too.
Well, for a sad story, for a sad story about an affair, or at least an emotional affair, and a very dire time for these people, it's not like there's a lot of screaming matches or it's not. It doesn't have that highly melodramatic quality. It's very British. It's a very British, very sad story, and I can see how that has its own quilted blanket, snuggle under a quilted blanket appeal to it.
Yeah, and it's a very warm feeling film because it honestly begins in two people who are attracted to each other as people, and they don't, sort of. There's no fireworks go off in a background and suddenly they're, macking or anything like that. And it only approaches that line. Although I think there is something I wanted to talk about that Andrew alluded to. I want to get your thoughts, Kayla, because it is something that you go back to. I read some things people proposing because the film is told from her perspective and it is essentially her confession to her husband in her head. Do you believe everything that happens in the story? There are some people who do not.
Maybe not fully, because when you're trying to recount something, or I know with myself, sometimes when I'm imagining things, it's not how it happened or how it will happen. So maybe not totally. It's kind of hard to know whether like, and it's probably not 100% the truth, like how she's perceiving it, because there's also her interpreting all of it.
Mhm. Right.
And so maybe not.
There's also some bits that don't quite add up from that perspective, because she's in almost every scene, but there are a few scenes where Alec is interacting with someone she's not there, or the sort of comic B plot about the romance at the train station. Like, there are things that happen that feel like movie things, not
Yeah.
I'm having a confession to my husband in my head things. So that always sort of dangles out there in my mind, where it's like, how did she know what Alec and Steven said to each other after she fled the apartment?
Well, maybe she doesn't. Maybe she's just thinking about it.
Right.
But
And
I-
just because she's confessing it, she's not literally confessing it to her husband, she's confessing it in her mind. Doesn't
Right.
mean there might be some wishful thinking or self-delusion in there somewhere.
Either way, however one wants to approach it, I think it's so open-ended and so warm and inviting, for a film that is ostensibly very sad, that I sort of even appreciate that open-endedness. That being in the mind of someone who's lovelorn and having this sort of wish fulfillment, I find really beyond interesting. It brings you so close to this person in a way that very few films can do. And I think the flashback device certainly helps that, but it's also the performers to look. There are people far less alien to me than Celia Johnson and Trevor Howard. However, they are definitely not me. But I feel very close to those two characters, and it's performance, it's the filmmaking, it's Noel Coward. Well, we can get into that too. It's sort of just his idea. It's based on a one scene play called Still Life that was expanded by Lean and the screenwriters, including this flashback device.
Interesting, because so many of the scenes to me like only really work because it's been opened up a little bit.
Like which ones?
Well, like anything, like how would I guess you could do the whole film like on the train platform if you wanted to do kind of like a one location.
Oh, yeah, I see
feel,
what you mean. Yeah.
But they do go out and about. I mean, the train station, I mean, there's an interesting geography in this film too, about like the way the role that trains and like the day trip about 20 miles down the road played in British town village life and so forth. But there's an interesting way that the train station acts as a nexus for and a meeting place, and also like a dramatic locale. But Laura and Alec go do other things. Like, they're not hanging out in the cafe for every single time they have a date. They're going to the movies. They're going rowing on the lake. Like, they're going out in the country, just driving around the country. So I feel like a sense of they actually are connecting beyond just being strangers on a train platform.
Yeah.
Benefits a little bit from those sort of on location places that we see them go.
And it's her life too. As she narrates what her day to day is as essentially just a wife. I'm not meaning that in a derogatory sense. That's kind of what she says in it. It's like, this is my day to day schedule. I went and changed out my book at the library. I got some new things from the chemist.
She gets a Kate O'Brien novel, a feminist Irish novelist.
Right. So someone who writes about romantic stories and fantasy and things like that. So that is an interesting point that she picks that up. But I mean, that all of that is with a purpose too, right? To show the sort of mundanity of her life and how this person is like a lightning bolt into it.
But I also think it doesn't. This whole story doesn't work as good if like her husband is an abusive monster or something.
Oh, of course, right.
Like,
right.
It works because she doesn't have a great reason to flee. That maybe her husband's a little boring, a little negligent, a little takes her for granted a little bit, but he's not a terrible human being. In fact, that's one of the reasons she can't really leave him, is because she feels like he doesn't deserve it.
And they have kids.
Yeah, and they have kids, and there's all these other mitigating factors. But to me, it almost doesn't feel as tragic, right? If she had a horrible home life, or he had a horrible home life.
Yeah, yeah. I think the tragedy really just comes from the specificity of the characters, though, and the gentle care that they have in writing these folks. I love, her husband is not horrible, but there's the scene where she tells him that she went to the movies with a man, and her husband is reading the paper and was like, "Oh, what'd you see? Blah 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 blah," and da da da. Oh, that sounds nice. Now da da da, and totally just hears it but doesn't hear her, and it's not like he's this terrible person. She's in a bad situation, like you said. It's more like, but this other man, he listens. I'm very sure that he hears me. And one of the things that with these kinds of stories I always think about is, well, what was the beginning of your relationship like with your husband now? Like, did you have a great love affair then? There's never any guarantee with anything.
Yeah, we don't see that. We don't know. We can only tell what Laura tells us. So, like,
Right.
Is this just a case of her not looking back? Is this a case where Laura is sort of like de-romanticizing what she went through with her husband in the early days? Or was it always kind of a slightly standoffish marriage or something? Like, we don't know. Has she ever felt this sort of thing before? Or is this like the first time the lightning bolt has really hit her?
Right.
We don't know. We can only trust what she tells us.
Speaking of them at the movies, so the movie is a fake film that Lean is using to highlight the emotions and underline the drama of Alec and Laura in like a clever way, which I thought was really interesting.
It's some kind of like jungle adventure romance, am I remembering right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have the name of it down.
What was the
somewhere.
what was the title?
Flames of the
Flames of Passion. Flames of Passion.
I love it. No, it's like they're manifesting it on screen, right? Because it's the only place they can go, or it can go.
That's the sort of thing where, like, if you're at something with your crush and something very salient comes on TV, and you kind of like look over, it's like, do I want this or do I not want this? Because it makes me deeply uncomfortable.
Yeah, this is us. This is us. This could be us, but you playing.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Celia Johnson and Trevor Howard, like as performers?
Please.
So one thing I did sketch down was that, like, these are two like gorgeous British movie actors, but I also feel like if you made this movie now, they would be so much more idealized beauties. Like, Celia has lines on her forehead. Trevor has like a widow's peak and acne scars on his cheeks. Like, they're very beautiful people, but they don't look like modern movie stars the way we'd normally think of them, which I think helps just from a modern, and this is totally a hindsight thing, it helps sell it a lot for me, because I feel like I'm looking at them and I feel like they're regular people who I could see out and about doing their errands.
They do feel like normal, like good-looking normal people. Celia Johnson had been in a couple of the Noel Coward and David Lean films prior to this, but Trevor Howard had just really been a supporting player, but found himself in his first leading role here. Supposedly Trevor Howard was a terrible drunkard and didn't really know what he was doing. So I'd like to imagine that, but he has her specific kind of clipped, stiff upper lip speech pattern is fascinating to me. Like, if I were to do like drag and do a snatch game character, I would do Celia Johnson and a Brief Encounter, and I'm not going to do it here because I haven't worked on it yet. But
I'm glad you brought that up, her way of speaking, though, because for me it helps sell. Again, because we're hearing her internal monologue as much as we're hearing characters' dialogue. For me, it helps sell some of the sort of snap 180s that Laura pulls psychologically as she's doing the internal monologues. A lot of times she'll do these things where she'd be like, oh, I could be impossibly happy. No, I'm impossibly sad. Oh no, I want to die. Oh, but this could be exquisite. Like she does those reversals, those mental gymnastics really fast. And I feel like on the page, maybe it doesn't play, but the way she delivers it, I buy it. I think her delivery sells it.
Yeah, you would have to have someone who is at least decent, as they might say, to believe that that kind of repression of desire might erupt and to go to the point of talking about suicide. Well,
yeah, this comes very close to being Anna Karenina at one point.
It does, yeah.
But
Fully
that's a
avoids
very-
it because there's a plenty of trains going on.
Yeah,
There's a very
that's
dark-
what you think, but it's not.
There's a very dark line for her just to outright say, I want to die if only I could die. I feel like for 1946, that's a very dark sentiment to put on screen. I want to die over a man.
But he's such a nice man. He's got such a nice face. I did not do this on purpose, but Criterion Channel has that in honor of Michael Koreski's book, Films of Endearment, about the films he watched with his mother when he was growing up. Has a whole series right now, and I've been going through them. 80s American films that are women focused, female focused, I should say. And one of them is called Falling in Love. And I didn't do this intentionally, but I watched Brief Encounter, and then Falling in Love was the next one I was going to watch. It's from 1984. It stars Meryl Streep and Robert De Niro as married people who have a chance encounter, start a love affair, and it's Brief Encounter for 1984. And it only affirms what you're saying, Andrew, is that you really have to have the right performers in this to make this sort of people breaking out of their mundanity or mundane lives, searching for something better, and having to tamp all of that desire down. Now, you could do a lot worse than Meryl Streep and Robert De Niro, but they're themselves, like, you know, they have the star bodies. So it's really hard to, like, you can't just remake this film and it be a great film. I guess you could try, unless you consider Carol a remake of it. But it just doesn't work because you're looking at them and they're those actors. And that it's Celia Johnson and Trevor Howard, people kind of familiar with them, certainly British audiences had seen them, but when it gets exported elsewhere, no one knew of them. And I think that's one of the reasons why it works so well elsewhere.
I have to ask, Kayla, since this is your choice, if you had to pick a favorite scene or monologue or whatever in this film, what would it be?
My scene is just the ending when it's like that 10 to 12 seconds of just like them like looking at each or seeing each other. And especially the one where like it's like the spiraling.
Yeah, that slow Dutch tilt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what really just like makes it all worth it in the end, is just seeing that. You're like, okay, this is amazing.
But that camera move is the feeling of deflation, like the physical anxiety that you get in your stomach when something, like when you had your heart stopped, when something terrible happens, right? Like right. I mean, I've seen this movie a few times, but this time when I saw it, I was like, that camera move, I know that feeling. Not that you don't get it, like without it. Celia Johnson could do it. You could even do it in like just a tight, you know, like a zoom in or dolly into her face. But that move goes so hard in giving you the physical sensation of disappointment. Andrew, I know in your notes you told me that you have some quotes. Give me some of those Noel Coward quotes, please.
There will come a time in the future when I shan't mind about this anymore, when I can look back and say quite peacefully and cheerfully how silly I was. And then we have another one of those little 180s in her mind in the space of 2 seconds. No, I don't want that time to ever come. I want to remember every minute, always, always, to the end of my days. What a great line.
Fuck. Yeah, I don't feel good now. I want to talk about Laura being the best liar on the face of the earth. When Laura and Alec go to lunch in that very fancy dining hall, and they come out and she says, "Oh, I know those people. They had to have seen us. They had to have seen us." And the two women walk out and they're all, "Laura, we thought that was you." She, without missing a beat, was like, "Oh, you don't remember him? He's so-and-so, who's blah, blah, blah's husband. I know you've met him. Here he comes. He's coming back in." All the while, you know, her heart is exploding inside. And then he doesn't miss a beat either. Like, these two.
Not only that, she has the call the girlfriend and get her to lie to you, for you situation, but she even lies to her friend. Like, so it's a lie about arranging a lie.
Right.
That is some sociopathic stuff.
I think it goes to point of how invested she is, not only in him, but also having her own life.
Well, I think it points to the fact that, like, if this relationship had continued, the smoothness with which Laura lies, it creates this alternate, like, reality for her husband and her friends. Like, if this relationship continued, they absolutely would be hooking up constantly, because you can see how much in the lies, you can almost see how important it is to Laura.
Well, it's not that I want to change the conversation, but the film that Lean makes two films after this, The Passionate Friends. Have either of you seen The Passionate Friends?
No.
Yes.
Oh.
Kayla, can I, don't go too far into it, because we might want to save it for a future episode. But can we talk about how Passionate Friends relates to this?
Okay, well, I think that Passionate Friends is sort of like the companion film to Brief Encounter. Brief Encounter is more broadly appealing and straightforward of the two, hitting your emotions by kind of telling a heartbreaking tale without many frills, while Passionate Friends plays more with the timeline and the aesthetic and things like that to tell just as emotional of a story through some more experimental techniques that might not be appealing to some viewers.
Also starring Trevor Howard. Wow.
As the good love. But I gotta tell you, when we talk about a bad husband, Passionate Friends was a huge inspiration for Phantom Thread, down to a central New Year's Eve party, down to a trip to the Alps, down to just a very toxic relationship. In Phantom Thread, it turns out differently, but
literally toxic and
literally toxic. Yeah. That's a film that I saw it for the first time recently, and my knee-jerk reaction is to say I actually kind of like it a little bit more than Brief Encounter, but let me say that that's with a caveat that they're both A movies for me.
Yeah.
I
don't know. I don't know. I don't know how I felt. I mean, I thought it was wonderful, but also too, like, I think I might like Brief Encounter a little bit more just on the ending. But
okay, so Passionate Friends is not a comfort movie.
No, not at all.
We should leave it there with Passionate Friends. One
it
of us might.
It sounds like I need to see it.
You absolutely have to see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You absolutely have to see it. Yeah.
Especially if it inspired Phantom Thread. I need to.
Oh yeah, that's a good double feature, I think. All right. Well, from one of the very first Cannes winners to a potential Cannes winner in the rules of the game, we're going to talk about more Cannes. Now we've come to the rules of the game where we have a little bit of fun. This time, we're going to talk about some of the films premiering at this year's Cannes Film Festival, which runs May 17th through May 28th. So by the time you hear the next episode, we'll know some winners. Yay! More excited about reactions to films, particularly one that the director says, I hope people pass out in the first 5 minutes. I have an idea that might come up during this. But what we're going to do is each take a turn and talk about one of the films we're excited about. Kayla, would you like to go first?
Okay, so one film that I'm excited to see is Claire Denis' The Stars at Noon.
I just made a gesture to Kayla for taking my very first one, but I'll pick something else. Kayla, why are you excited to see that one?
Joe Alwyn's in it, and I like him, and obviously like Claire.
Margaret Qualley's in it too.
Yeah.
It's her second A24 backed film, and it's an adaptation of a Dennis Johnson novel of the same name. She's a journalist. He's a businessman. They have they're passionate friends. They have a passionate romance. I don't know much about it beyond that. I've had the book on a list to get it before I see the film. We're prepared for Claire Denis doubleheader this year. So
Yeah, doesn't she have another one with
She has
Juliette
both.
Binoche?
both sides of the blade, which it is now officially called in America, was Fire. Very dumb English title. But yeah, that one is coming out in June. Stars at Noon, I'm not sure when it's going to be released here, but I would imagine that you'll be able to see it if it's A24. Guys, when I was looking this up, Claire Denis hasn't had anything in competition since Chocolat in 88.
Wow.
Weird.
I said to my friend, that's not true, because I just felt like it couldn't be true. Well, she hasn't. She's had something shown in Fortnite, which is the sidebar. She had Let the Sunshine In, which is a great film. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like she's a marquee French director, so maybe she has just a personal thing where she's not interested in it.
Could be, and maybe it's because Thierry Frémaux, the director now of the Cannes Film Festival, has gotten into a lot of hot water about their
Mouth
treatment.
disease.
Yeah, about many things. One being their treatment of female filmmakers, and not, kind of skirting things like, directors like Claire Denis. This year there are marginally more, but yeah. Also, there was High Heel Gate, where they only wanted actresses wearing high heels going to premieres. Like, you're not that special. You're the best film festival, but you're not that special. All right. Well, Kayla got Claire Denis. I'm talking Mia Hansen-Løve, who made a film that I believe, Kayla, you really liked, right? Last year, called Bergman Island. And
Great film.
I've liked a couple of her other films, but Bergman Island really set me in a direction where I'm excited to see. She's got something that's sort of, she's proposing it's a take on Eric Rohmer, and it stars Léa Seydoux, and here's another woman having a brief encounter, but this woman supposedly is having an affair while her husband is terminally ill. So that is called One Fine Morning. Oh my God, just even the title of it, I'm going to start freaking crying. All right, Andrew, anything more uplifting on your end?
Well, let's keep the first round going with the women filmmakers on that note. I am excited for Kelly Reichardt's new film, Showing Up, in which she's reuniting with Michelle Williams, who she's collaborated with a few times before. I make no secret about Kelly Reichardt being one of my favorite living filmmakers right now, has been for the last 10 years. The content at this point doesn't even matter to me. Kelly Reichardt has a new feature. It's going to be in my, highest priority. Although it does sound like from what the log line that it's going to be a little bit more of a dramedy from her, maybe getting back to more of an old Joy feeling. It's about an artist played by Williams who is trying to prepare for an exhibition of her work, and she's dealing with family drama and friends who don't understand her work and so forth and so on. So I get the impression it's going to be a drama, but with maybe a slight comedic element to it, which will be a sort of change of pace. Although I guess Cow had its lighthearted moments as well.
I guess if it's about
This
the seeds of evil in the American system, like, yeah, there's a bit of funny stuff in it. But yeah. She's just unimpeachably great. I don't know. Has she ever made anything approaching?
It's a reliable pair up. It's her, Michelle Williams, Jonathan Raymond, who's been her co-writer and collaborator since going back to Old Joy. This is sort of like her A team. And again, she's one of my favorite living filmmakers, so obviously she's going to be high on the list.
All right, very cool. That's on my list too. And Kayla, what's your next pick?
Pick is the new Park Chan-wook film, Decision to Leave. And it says it's a mystery film.
What was the last film he made? Is it Handmaiden? Was that the last thing he did?
Sounds right.
Right? Well,
Yeah.
was the Le Carré, what is that, Soldier Girl? That miniseries he did with Florence Pugh and Michael Shannon, Little Drummer Girl.
Oh, yeah, it's John
Jeez.
McCarr. Yeah, John McCarr, yeah.
Yeah. That was great. He did that after Handmaiden.
Yeah.
I'm with you there. Like, what, a mystery? What it's called Decision to Leave.
Yes, it says a detective falls for a mysterious widow after she becomes the prime suspect in his latest murder investigation.
Oh,
That sounds like a Bogart film.
that is catnip for me. Oh my god, I love that. All right, well, the next film I'm going to pick is called Pacification. This is Albert Serra's latest film. His last film was called Liberté. It was about some very horny bourgeois people in the woods having sex games for 2 hours.
Oh, yes, I remember you talking about that film.
Yes. This one is about a novelist who returns to French Polynesia, where she accepts a translator job with an ambassador for whom she eventually falls. I'm sensing a theme. People are falling in love this year. But supposedly it gets into international politics and everything. I can't imagine what an Alex Serra romance would be, especially after Liberté, which was just like one of the raunchiest things I've ever seen, and just such a missive to...
Yeah. There's no way this can be a straight romance. Like, we're waiting for the
Absolutely
other
not.
shoe to drop.
Absolutely not. I'm very excited for that. And all right, Andrew, what do you have next?
I'm going to go with RMN, an acronym that I'm not even clear on what it stands for, but that's the title I'm given, by the Romanian filmmaker Christian Mungiu. Mungiu, I think that's how it's pronounced.
Yep.
Again, this is another instance of maybe like me going purely on name recognition. I know very little about the film other than that it's a guy sort of returning home to his home village in the Romanian wilderness after a long period of working overseas. But Christian Mungiu is a filmmaker who, I haven't seen all of his work, but every film of his that I have seen has been a complete knockout. He's sort of one of the originators of the Romanian New Wave. And he has an incredible sense of, he has incredible ability to create tension from situations and scenes that don't necessarily read on the page as being tense. I think I sort of view him as a slow motion thriller filmmaker in some ways, but he is 4 for 4 for me for the films that I have seen of his. So this is another one that like immediately gets high on the list for me just on the basis of his name.
And he's a former Palm winner. And there's something that happens at Cannes. It's like once you win a prize or you're in main competition, your next films are just sort of invited unless you've done something pretty bad. But he
won for 4 months. He won for 4 months, 3 weeks, 2 days, which we mentioned earlier.
And he won the best director for Graduation, which is also great. And I think he won something for Beyond the Hills. Yes, the screenplay award for Beyond the Hills. So they love him. So yeah, I'm also very excited about that one. Kayla, do you have another one?
Yeah, so my next one is Koreeda's new film called Broker, which is about boxes that are left out for people to anonymously drop off their unwanted children.
Oh my gosh.
Why is that man up to that all the time?
Oh,
Is
he's going to break our
he
hearts all over again.
Is he okay? Well, the world's not okay, so. Yeah, again, another Palm winner. And I think he has
I don't know,
another-
that just sounds really interesting. Like, I've always wondered about, like, you know, like, I know that they do it at, like, local police stations or something. Like, here in the US, you can just, like, basically drop off, like, a newborn child, and it's supposed to be, like...
I mean, it's preferable to dumpster babies, I guess. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, that just sounds really, really interesting.
And that's got Song Kang-ho from a lot of Bong Joon-ho films, like Parasite and Doona Bae. So that's exciting. Well, the last one I wanted to highlight is not in the official competition. A few of these might not have been. It is the second film premiering this year by Sergei Loznitsa, who is someone who works in documentary, who works in narrative. He is sort of known for being the preeminent documenter of modern Eastern Europe in film, at least. I saw his film Mr. Landsbergis at True False. It was the film at the festival that was the 4-hour thing, and I marveled at it. It was if I'm going to reduce it to call it a archival footage documentary about Lithuania gaining their independence from the USSR. This one is called The Natural History of Destruction. Here's the synopsis. The film is inspired by W.G. Sebald's text, Luftkrieg and Literature. Sebald describes the phenomenon of mass destruction of this German civilian population and German cities by massive Allied air raids during World War II. In particular, he examines the perception and processing of this phenomenon in European post-war literature. What this film will be, I have no idea, but I've seen a few of his films. He also made State Funeral that came out, I believe, 2021, and Donbass, and he's just a fantastic filmmaker that I hope I get to see this film this year, and I hope everyone gets to see Mr. Landsbergis this year too. Andrew, what's your final pick before we do a free-for-all?
Well, I think we knew it was coming eventually, right?
Ooh,
David Cronenberg's Crimes of the Future. This is sort of, I think everybody is assuming based on the trailers and the logline that this is the return of sort of weirdo David Cronenberg. Not that he hasn't done some great stuff. I personally rank Cosmopolis among his best films. So I don't think of this, the past few years, as being a fallow period by any stretch, but I do think that there's a special invigoration that occurs in the entire cinephile community when we hear new David Cronenberg movie and it's weird. I feel like I have good timeline management on Twitter because absolutely every single person I follow posted the yes sickos meme when this film was first announced. What else can you say? The cast looks amazing. Viggo Mortensen, Lea Seydoux, Kristen Stewart, Scott Speedman. It looks utterly deranged from what we've seen of the trailers. I can't wait.
Have you both seen the Red Band trailer that came out recently? Yeah. Kayla's saying, no way. Kayla, turn her head. Girl, I'm so excited. So this is the one where he said, I think people pass out or leave in the first
some
5 minutes.
Some of that is Cannes hype, right? Like there's a
Absolutely.
there's a particular like cachet for the Cannes walkout, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if it's Cronenberg and it's Kristen Stewart. Like, it appears that she's doing surgery on some sort of port in a person, but is also having sex with it. And then there's a man with a bunch of ears on his head. Yeah. Yeah, baby.
The only point of reservation I will have here is that it looks like it's going to have some similarity to Existence, which is not a David Cronenberg I particularly care for.
That is something that's come up on this podcast. We had a little bit of a disagreement about it.
I don't remember. Yeah, maybe I need to revisit it because I don't remember it being particularly great. But on the other hand, just like anything weird, man. We need some weird right now.
Yeah. Well, it is an adaptation of an early work that he did, early short film. So I don't know how faithful it is going to be. It looks to be like it's sprung forth in many different directions. So yes, and that will be showing in June. And that is an A24 release too. All right. Y'all want to throw some other titles out there? Anything else that you were looking forward to? George Miller's next film's coming out, 3,000 Years Longing.
Yeah, I have that on my list. On a trip to Istanbul, a lonely scholar finds Jin, who offers her 3 wishes in exchange for his freedom. She wants love, but he's unsure if he should allow it to her.
It's a fantasy romance with Tilda Swinton and Idris Elba.
Wow. Of all the things I expected George Miller to do next, his Aladdin / Kazam reboot is not what I expected.
I mean, remember Witches of Eastwick? That's him.
That's true.
So he can get a little wild. I mean, beyond almost killing 1,000 people and trying to make Mad Max Fury Road. The new Ruben Östlund film's coming out, and that's got
that's one I was going to mention.
It seems to me to be in the same vein as The Square. According to the description, it's got Woody Harrelson in it. There's also Ethan Coen has his next film. Wait, did Ethan Coen make Tragedy of Macbeth? No, that was Joel Coen. Joel made. Okay, so Ethan Coen's got a documentary about Jerry Lee Lewis coming out. Yeah, there's just, I don't know, every year there's just so much stuff. And what I'm excited to see are things like, typically I'll go straight to the stuff that, ooh, George Miller has a new film, or ooh, this director has a new film. But it always happens that things emerge from new talent or new filmmakers. Filmmakers new to me, I'll say, from every Cannes Film Festival. So I can't wait for the next 2 weeks to kind of follow along. Anything else you guys are excited for?
The new Irma Vep TV show.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know how to feel about that one.
I love Alicia
Vikander.
I love her a lot. So I'm excited to that.
I like her too. She was on my short list for supporting actress for Green Knight. Performance I don't think anyone talked about last year. Here's where I plug a Cinema St. Louis event. This new TV miniseries or series, I'm not really sure, by Olivier Assayas is an adaptation, continuation, remix, whatever it is, of Irma Vep, his 1995 film starring Maggie Cheung, that I'm presenting as a part of this year's Robert Classic French Film Festival.
Yay.
And that movie is meta enough, and now I have to watch an entire TV series to be able to present on it. But I'm excited to do so.
It'll be on HBO Max on like June 6th. So.
Heck yeah. That's like so soon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited.
But just to reiterate what you said, Josh, I mean, I think that like the fun part about any international festival is always the stuff that just sort of emerges from seemingly nowhere, or at least attains a new level of awareness about a particular director who you didn't know about that much. I remember like I had seen Matty Diop's pseudo documentary, A Thousand Suns at True False a few years ago. But when Atlantics came out, and I think she won, and didn't she win like jury award or Grand Prix for Atlantics? I mean, that was like a whole nother level. So it felt like a complete discovery, even though I had seen one of her films previously. So I always love those kind of like left field things that pop up, and worthy films that just kind of come out of nowhere and take you by surprise. That's always the cool compliment to the big names, you know?
Well, we're going to be talking about the Cannes Film Festival a lot for the next few episodes. We've got 3 more to go. Before we go, though, we've all got one more thing. And for our finale, we give you one more thing, something we've been enjoying since our last episode. Andrew, you're up first.
Well, lately I've been doing something I don't do that often, which is kind of diving back into some classic films that I either haven't seen in a long time or I've never seen before. And to that end, I've been looking at the Ida Lupino or starring Ida Lupino collection on the Criterion Channel this week.
Nice.
I revisited They Drive by Night recently, which I hadn't seen in ages and remembered very little about. And then just this weekend, I took in High Sierra, which for the first time, which I've never seen before, which is another Raoul Walsh film, I believe, starring Ida Lupino and Humphrey Bogart. Ida gets top billing over Bogey in that one.
Nice.
Because I believe it was Bogart's first sort of breakout role. So I do recommend the film. It's a very strange film in some ways, but also a very straightforward film about sort of a heist gone wrong. Bogart's playing a bad guy who's like maybe lying to himself a little bit about how he's not a bad guy. And it's just sort of an interesting character study in more than anything, with this sort of doomed romance at the center. Doomed maybe triangular romance. It's not entirely... The film is a little bit ambiguous about that, but beautiful location stuff in the Sierra Nevadas. Awesome Bogey being a complete badass, tough guy with some great dialogue. Highly recommended. And I'm going to continue to dive into hopefully some of these other lesser known Lupino films that I haven't seen before. So starring Ida Lupino series present right now in May on the Criterion Channel. You can find me at AWyatt76 on Letterboxd and at Arachnophiliac on Twitter.
Awesome. Well, I want to join you in watching those, but Criterion Channel's just like, just marathon after marathon after marathon. That's great. I just can't keep up. My one more thing is I did a marathon this weekend. I actually went to the 12th anniversary celebration of Late Night Grindhouse, a local staple in the St. Louis film scene run by Destroy the Brains Andy Treitenbach. So here was the setup. From noon to midnight, 8 films in a row, 4 thematic double features.
Wow.
I made it through 6 and turned to my boyfriend and said, I think I've had enough movies. But it was so much fun. The crowd there was engaged, and that sometimes that crowd can get rowdy at late night screenings, but no, everyone, like, I could tell people were drinking because they'd be getting up, and as they'd walk by me, each time they'd walk by, they'd be a little bit clunkier. Yeah, it's really fun. There's a lot of metagaming happening. So what
were the films? Yeah.
So the films. He started, and I was like, I am in the right place now with Mario Bava's Blood and Black Lace.
Yes. Great film.
And it was a DCP of, I think, Arrow's restoration, and it looked just incredible. And that's a film where it's so important that you get the colors right. Yeah. Went into Hard Ticket to Hawaii, a film I did not enjoy, but is an exploitation film from the 80s. Was awful. Shogun Assassin, the edit of the Lone Wolf and Cub films. I'm good. The Blob remake, which
the one from the 80s, yeah.
Which I'd seen recently, is the only other one that I had seen, and was really impressed by it. I was even more impressed by it this time, not only for its thematic resonance that it has, but also the special effects. I was thinking we could have had it all. The practical special effects
Great
in that thing
effects.
are just crazy.
I'm not a huge fan of that film, but the effects stand up so well.
They are so awesome. And the next film was the find of the festival for me, called Bloody Birthday, about some psychically linked youngsters who have a penchant for murder. A very good time was had by all, I hope. And then the final one I saw was Popcorn, a film I did not enjoy, but a film about movie geeks, actually film students, putting on a horror film festival, appropriately enough. He then finished with The Black Cat and the ultimate, I guess, late night grindhouse horror film, Hausu. So it was a really great time. So I would suggest everyone kind of follow along with late night grindhouse.
Where was the venue? Where was this?
It was at the Marcus de Pere.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the screen was great. It always looks good. Andy always puts on good shows. They're not always my thing. The next one they're doing is Toxic Avenger, which I'm good on, but a lot of people, I'm sure, would love that. But you can find... Oh, go ahead, Kayla. Sorry.
Were you like able to like eat and like walk around and like take a break, or was it like
So
back?
So he had it structured. Each one is in double features back to back. Like the second the first ended, the second started playing. So it was really like 3-hour chunks. He kept everything under 90 minutes. But then in between, he would play trailers related to the next double feature. So for the first double feature, he played the trailer to Mario Baba's Girl Who Knew Too Much, and then Samurai Cop. So it became like a game too, because nobody knew what was going to be playing. So it was just...
Oh, it was a complete blind screening?
Well, he dropped hints online. Some of them were pretty obvious. Others was like, I would have never guessed Bloody Birthday. I'm like, what? I've never heard of it.
I've always liked Late Night Grindhouse. I haven't gone in a while, but they're about 50-50 for me. Like I can usually skip one and then go to one that I remember said they showed Life Force, Toby Hooper, which an absolute packed bring down the house crowd for that.
Yeah.
I remember they showed some older Giallo. They showed Bird with the Crystal Plumage at the old Moolah Theater. So they have some pretty good programming.
Yeah, I mean, you can get things that are considered classics and critically loved, and then you can get Toxic Avenger, which has a lot of fans. I'll say a lot of fans. But I'm Joshua Ray. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Crispy Retinas. Save the best for last. Miss Kayla McCullough, what you got?
So speaking of Late Night Grindhouse, I would love to do that concept, but with all Nora Ephron films and Nancy Meyers films. Speaking of,
Oh my God.
we just rewatched It's Complicated, and I would say it's probably the most perfect use of Meryl Streep, Alec Baldwin, and Steve Martin in the history of ever. They just work so well together, and Nancy just has a total and complete knowledge of them as actors and their comedic strengths. And it's just so underrated, and I love it so much.
Okay, now I'm seeing it. We need to
me too.
whiteboard. We need to whiteboard like the 90s rom-com
90s and aughts.
grand dames. Yeah.
Mhm.
I want to see you sketch out like the thematic relationships. We'll put a column down the middle, and then you got to write the keywords and then move pieces of paper around. It'll be great.
I think we have to put the 80s in there too, because Nora and Nancy
For sure.
start their careers proper in the 80s, right? Charles Shire, and then Nora's doing her stuff, and yeah. Okay, what are I said this is the end of the podcast. What other films would you put? Can we put Crossing Delancey in it?
Okay, I need to see that. I have
Yes, you
not
do.
seen it, and I need to see it. And everybody's been telling me you need to watch it forever, and I just haven't seen it. So
Wait a minute. We are a podcast that is structured around a quote unquote marathon and a theme, please just hang on to this idea.
Do we have the post can series already brainstormed here?
I think so.
Mm.
I think we have to at this point. All right.
All right.
Kayla, where can people find you?
You can find me on Letterboxd, it's just my name, Kayla McCullough, and that's all she wrote.
Perfect. And you can find everything we all wrote at cinemastlouis.org. All right, that's our first episode for the Cannes Winners series. Next episode, I've got a bit of a cheat. In 1968, there were no winners, but it was a pivotal time in French politics and a great time for the Cannes Film Festival. Great meaning important time for the film Peppermint Frappe by Carlos Saura, starring Geraldine Chaplin. A film I have not seen, but I am a fan of the filmmaker. You can stream it now on the Criterion channel. And until next time, like Kayla said, that's all she wrote.
Lord.
Oh, God.
I don't
Right.
know this film.